Hi, Dr. Burns. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you for having me. So
Of
excited.
course. Thank you for joining us for the HBCU CARES interview series. We've been speaking via email, but I am Christina Brantley and I am a third year starting today. I have class at
Okay.
5:30.
All right.
A third year school counseling major at Clark Atlanta University. And I start my internship this semester at a middle school, and next semester I will be at a high school. So we are really excited to speak to you today about the work that you do, your advocacy and education, and just the all around rock star that you are. So, if you could just give us a brief introduction about yourself, and then we'll move into the questions.
Yeah, of course. Like I said, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today. Wow. Keisha Burns, where do I start? I have been in education now for over 20 years. I started off as a teacher. I taught social studies for about 15 years. I've been lucky enough to stay at the same school site and transition into my role as a school counselor. So I've been here as a school counselor since 2015, 2016, and I am loving the job. I always say school counseling is the best job out there. Actually, it's not even a job. I just love what I do. It doesn't feel like work. Just being able to help students, especially in middle school, just navigate what's ahead. We know that middle school can be challenging sometimes. And so it's just been a pure joy, and just a blessing actually to be able to help the next generation to figure things out. Um, yeah, so that's me. Just fell into it.
And I love how humble you're being because Dr. Burns is also the 2023 School Counselor of the Year finalist, meaning that she is bomb.com at the work that she does, and she is advocating left and right for her students and their well-being at the school. And just a testament to you being there 15 years and becoming a counselor is that's incredible.
Thank
Um,
you. Thank you. Like I said, as I always say, it's a work of heart, and that is a true statement for school counseling. So definitely don't go in it for the accolades, but as I said, I'm just grateful to thank you for
yeah.
letting me be here today and giving me the platform. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, could you tell us a little bit about what you do in the behavioral health field and what school counseling is?
Mhm. Yeah, so school counseling is working with students in different avenues. We work with students in regarding academics, attendance, social emotional, and college and career. So they're a big scope as far as what we do. As far as myself, I make sure that definitely follow the American School Counselor Association's national model. I am at a middle school, as I said that, but I'm also a solo counselor. And so making sure that I am um, available for my students, and that I am not only available, but just knowledgeable of what's out there. It's important. It's very important, as I said, to work with students who are might have trauma or might have different things that they are going through, different experiences. School counseling is just an all around. We work with the all around thing. We work with the whole. I say we work with the whole student or a whole child. So it's not just academics. I'm not just making schedules or things like that, like some people might think as a school counselor. But again, going into the classroom, presenting lessons to my student population, working with small groups is part of what I do, as well as just one-on-one, when it's needed. So it's just making sure that I'm looking at my data and staying on top of what students might be struggling, making sure that I have a good rapport, not only with my students, but with the staff is huge. And so they're knowledgeable of what to look for and any red flags that they might see from students whether it's change in behavior or change in demeanor, or even again academic. If somebody's struggling, all of a sudden we know that that there's something there. But they'll call me, from teaching staff to campus security. It's like, hey, Dr. Burns, something's up with the student. Can you check them out, see what's going on? But it's I always say it's just added joy in knowing that these students as middle schoolers, they don't know necessarily how to navigate the waters. They don't know, especially coming out of the COVID years. A lot of students are still trying to figure out how to socialize with each other, and what does that look like? And so it's important. It's just important that I'm visible, and that students and staff and parents and just all stakeholders know that I'm here to support the students here.
Absolutely. So it sounds like no days are the same and that every day is full and perhaps impactful, but definitely busy. So
That is the truth.
yes.
Yes.
um, so from 15 years of a social studies teacher, could you talk about your career path and what led you to behavioral health, and specifically counseling after being a teacher?
Yeah, for sure. I always share that, gosh, I thought I was when I was in undergrad, I thought I was going to become a dentist. And so that's yeah, it's like, how did you end up in education? Just fell into it. I think it called me. I was going back to, not to go too far, but I was continuing my studies for dental school, getting a couple of classes. Hey, I needed a paycheck, right? So let's go into substitute teaching. So I did that. I was hired in the district that I work with, and then a week later, I got a phone call. Hey, there's an opening for a social studies teacher. I know this is your background. What do you think? So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, yeah, sure. This will be a good way to pay the bills, what have you. And I got in it, and just, I don't know, it just clicked. I was like, okay, I think this is for me. So I continued my studies, got my master's degree in as a teacher. So making sure that I have my credential there as well. I thought I was going to go the pathway of an administrator, so I went back to school, got my administration, do master's degree in educational administration. And just in talking with the students and engaging with the students as a teacher, it was like something's missing here. So I always wanted to make sure that I incorporated real life things, like, how do you calculate your GPA? What does that look like? How do you not know that you're not eligible to participate? What's going on here? Well, what are your plans for after you finish high school? Well, I don't know, Dr. Burns. What's available. And so we talked about college. And so I'm just doing all these things in my classroom. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's a career path right here that kind of goes right along with what I'm doing in the classroom. And so we did have a school counselor here at the time. I went and I spoke with her, and she was like, yeah, I can come and observe. And my bestie that we were talking about before, her mom was actually my school counselor down at my high school. And so I was able to pick her brain. And after that, it was like, okay, this is it. So went back to school again and got my master's in educational school counseling certificate, my credential, my PPS credential. And here we have it. I know as far as my doctorate, it was just the icing on the cake. It was my doctor's from USC, and it's in educational psychology. And so it was just another layer of, now that I'm in the field, what else can I learn? What else do I need to know for my students to be able to help them? And so, yeah, so that's kind of what brought me to where I am today. Talk
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah, it sounds like every experience just built on another, like once you transitioned and got into the school, it just captured you. And I love your curiosity. It's like, oh, I'm curious about how the students don't know one thing, but how can it be connected to something else? But how can I be the one to lead that charge? So your leadership is very inspiring, and just the initiative that you take, every time you see that there's a gap that needs to be filled, it's like, I'm the solution. So,
Right, right. You have to be that person. I mean, we always, can't just sit back and watch and let these kids fail and not know. So definitely.
exactly. And that kind of goes into the next question, but you answered it in the previous, which was just talking about education and training that you need to work in the field. So if someone is coming from a traditional route wherein they're coming straight from high school and decide they want to be a school counselor, that path will look different versus if it becomes a calling of yours and then you decide that this is the work that you want to do. So,
Of course. So just taking that pathway, just some people know right off the out the gate, this is what I want to do. And so your undergrad work, just making sure that, take those psychology classes and those sociology classes, just become familiar with some of the inner workings of a human. And then, yeah, many programs out there, master's programs in educational school counseling. And, that's the one thing too, the training, it's really rigorous for educational school counseling. I always say some people think back to their experience with their counselor and they just remember somebody just changing schedules and that was it. And they were always in their office and what have you. But no, school counseling has changed over the years. And it's the training, you need to put in your hours once you finish your schooling. So there are certain hours that you have to get in at different levels in order to become certificated. So definitely, it's it's uh, it's a work. It's hard work. Sorry.
yeah, no, absolutely. We're in it right now. I think
Mhm.
our cohort, we talk about how you have to do those 600 hours and you don't get paid for those. So it is, I mean, if you have some type of fellowship, which Clark Atlanta does offer, it subsidizes some of your costs. But to your point, we're doing 100 hours of practicum, 600 hours of internship. And then if you decide that you want your LPC, that still requires more supervision hours after you've graduated. So I think when people just deduce the role to schedules and um, work that is just available for someone to do, it's completely incorrect. And it requires a lot in training and also in service. Um,
Yes, definitely, definitely. But it's worth it. It's worth it.
it is. Okay, good. I'm glad you said that it's worth it. Because then you can share some of the rewarding parts about the work that you do.
Yeah, of course. So rewarding. Oh my gosh. Just having students to come in and, say, hey, Dr. Burns, that issue that you helped me with, I'm feeling better. Thank you for teaching me, different coping skills or how to handle my emotions with certain situations. Just hearing stories and having students come back to the school site and say, hey, Dr. Burns, I'm in college now and I'm doing well. I have former students that are MFTs that are in grad school and I hear from them all the time. Crazy enough, I have a former student that's actually one of my coworkers now. That's how long I've been in the field. But yeah, just day one, it's like, yeah, you look familiar. So I mean, just things like that. It's a great, great career. I have no regrets whatsoever. Um, just the stories of the parents that are grateful and yeah, it's a great field. You'll
Yes.
enjoy it.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's some to your point, like receiving emails from students like, hey, this is what I'm doing now. Or you also kind of see students through their lifespan in a way, which is also very interesting. But I think that part might also be challenging because you see the ones that do well, and then there's some that
Mhm.
may not.
Right.
So, could you talk about some of the challenging aspects of the position? And that could either be in dealing with students, parents, admin, or just everything that comes with the job itself.
Yeah, I think the first pitfall, if you will, is just again in um, letting people know what it is that we do. So that's always important. And I know this was when I started, we didn't have school counselors. There was a time period for those of you that have been in education for a while, you know that they're, cut back sometimes. And so coming back into the district as a school counselor, it was just the re-education component of everyone in the district. This is what school counselors do. This is what it looks like now. So that was hard. As we built the program, then it allowed everyone to see, oh, okay, this is what you're doing. This is what it looks like. Um, as far as parents, parents have been really, really supportive. Again, it's just letting them know what it is that I am doing and what my role is to support not only them, but their student, and getting out those resources to my families. Um, just letting them know that I am here for them. And then, yeah, of course, we have those students that you talk to, and you know that they're going down the wrong path, and you try and try to put that seed in them. And unfortunately, they end up in the system that we don't want them in. And that's heartbreaking, definitely. But again, thankfully, it's far few that have had those experiences. Um, but I think the most challenging, as I said, is just the knowledge piece and letting people know what is that we do, and just reminding them that I am here for you as a support system, and being able to get out into the community a little bit more and being more visual, with parents and the community, can be a challenge as well. And then number one, I guess, would be being a solo counselor. Being a solo counselor to almost 900 students, it's not easy. Definitely, I saw your mouth open. Yes, 900 students. I am a solo counselor. So just letting everybody know again that there's some things I got to put in place in order. I'm going to meet with this student, I'm going to meet with your student, but there's a way that I have to organize in order to make that happen. But other than that, it's, I keep coming back to it. See your mouth open. Yes, 900. It's a challenge, but hey, that's one of the things that we advocate for. So we have been able to add additional school counselors within our district. So now we're at 11. Um, but now the goal is to start putting one, an additional one at each site. So we have a counterpart at each site. But thankfully, I have a great group of district counselors that I work with, and we meet regularly to put our heads together and come up with different ideas and resources that are available district-wide.
Okay, I'm speechless, and I don't know if we need to take a beat. I think I heard somebody knock. So, do we need to?
No,
Okay,
we're
okay,
good.
okay. I am speechless. 900, like I listened to your interview that you did with Aska, and I thought that that was like maybe, I think by then you were close to 700, but I'm going to incorporate some self care practices into my routine for you because the 900 is just, that is a lot of students.
It is, and we know, ASCA, the suggested ratio is 250 to 1. But again, it's just advocating for myself and my peers. And like I said, I'm grateful that we now have a counselor per school site. So that's great. So now, like I said, next step is, hey, I can always use a counterpart here. That'll be great. So that's the next thing.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, we're going to keep pushing these ASCA standards so that Dr. Burns can get the help that she deserves out in California. And
Yeah.
speaking of ASCA and just health in general, what advice would you give to aspiring behavioral health professional, or in particular school counselor, or whichever way you want to approach it?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I actually an adjunct professor at a university out here, University of Laverne. So shout out to my cohort that's starting next week. So one of the things that I always share with my classes is just remember your why. Why are you getting into this field? It can be you had a bad experience. It can be you had a great experience in education or with your school counselor, but always remember your why and let that be your guide. Let that be your drive as you're going through the field, as you're going through your hours, as you're going through those classes and you're having a rough day. Just remember your why and why you chose this field. And even, as you get into the profession, just again, remember your why. Why did you do this? Why did you choose it? Or why did it, in my case, why did it choose you? What was your why?
I love that. Why did it choose you? Because to your point, oftentimes it feels like counseling or the helping professionals, it may not be what some people thought that they were going to do. And in a previous interview, someone knew that they wanted to work with kids, and to them, it automatically meant pediatrician. So now she's a school psychologist, and the
Nice.
way that she gets to work with children, but it's still, to her point, she said exactly what you said. She said, I fell into it.
Yeah.
Like it just it called me, right? It asked me. Like it wasn't really something that she thought about. So thank you so much for sharing that. And with HBCU Cares, we just advocate for more Black and Brown professionals in the field, because there can be a lack of us. And we know that sometimes there are cultural nuances that are important for students to ensure that they feel seen and that they feel heard. So I just want to thank you for the work that you're doing. And I think
Course.
when I saw your schools, you were in California for the duration of your education. Okay. So unfortunately, California does not have HBCUs, but
It's not, but that's okay.
I know, but
HBCU adjacent
that's
to
what I was just about to
Burns and
say.
my bestie. She went to Clark Atlanta. So.
Yes. Which HBCUs are you claiming?
Yes, yes, yes. I have family. I have a niece that just started in Morgan State.
Oh,
She's over
sweet.
there. I have cousins that went to Howard. So, like I said, I'm HBCU adjacent.
Yes.
But definitely, I understand the importance of it and the need. Definitely, the need for more of us to attend those universities, and just like I said, more of us to get into the healthcare field or education. I know, well, not I know, but just students need to see it. The kids in the schools, they need to see people that look like them in order to build that rapport and that relationship, and to know, hey, I grew up similar to you did. I grew up around the corner, so we can relate. We have those similarities, in how we were raised. And like you said, those cultural nuances, I get it. I know what it looked like at home. It looks like, I can relate very well. And so it's very important in what we do, just to, again, be able to bridge that gap. And it's important.
Yes, absolutely. And although we advocate for HBCUs, we more so advocate for behavioral health students of color. So, whichever school they decide to go to and whatever that looks like, we just want to make sure that people that look like us are having someone to serve their needs. Um,
Yeah.
so thank you so much. I am going to stop recording us now. So give me one. Well, before I stop, is there anything else that you want to share, or anything else that you want to say about the behavioral health field, about school counseling before we close out?
Um, just again, give it if it's something you're considering, go for it. It's definitely education is a calling. It's not for everybody, but if you feel that this is where you're led to do, then go for it. Go for it. And yeah, just go for it.
Okay. Last words from Dr. Burns. Go for it.